The legal challenges are starting to pile up against New York. Let's talk about that here on this episode of Guns and Gadgets. Today's sponsor is the USCCA. The United States Concealed Carry Association gets you ready for what happens before, during, and after an act of lawful self-defense. There's a lot of training and education. Once you become a member, you also get self-defense liability insurance. It's what I use for my family. I strongly suggest you check it out. It could be the most important link you ever click. It's uscca.com/GNG. It's in the pinned comment. It's also in the description box below. All right, let's talk about the legal challenges to New York. I've covered everything that New York has done unconstitutionally since the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin opinion came down from the Supreme Court. New York was specifically called out in that ruling. It went against their licensing scheme for concealed carry permits, and it struck down as unconstitutional their proper cause requirement that had been a thing since 1913-ish. So I told you that Gun Owners of America was working on something. It finally dropped yesterday in federal court in the Northern District of New York, and they're suing specifically on all of the things that New York's governor, Kathy Hochul, has done to infringe upon the Second Amendment. What she signed was the Concealed Carry Improvement Act, and it, in addition to making all private property in New York state, not just the city, the entire state, all private property is a gun-free zone. And if you, as a business owner, didn't want that, then there were strict restrictions in which you could say, this is a building or a property where guns are welcome. You'd have to post that, thus making you a target, violating your rights as well. And there was a lot more that's wrong with this bill. But Gun Owners of America is suing, saying it is a violation of the Second Amendment. It's a direct violation of the Bruin decision, which is only 2.5 weeks old. And also is a violation of people's First Amendment. Why? Because New York now requires people to submit their social media accounts of the last 3 years so that the licensing officials can see if the candidate is of good moral character. They've changed from proper cause, which the Supreme Court specifically said you can't do, and then they just renamed it to good moral character. In addition to that, licensees have to give all the information of adults living in their household so that they can be contacted by the licensing officials. It's terrible. Just to remind you how bad it is, I'm going to tell you the 20 locations or 20 groups of locations that have been deemed gun-free zones. So New York's gun-free zones or sensitive locations are here on screen. I'll go through them really fast. Any place owned or under the control of federal, state, or local government for the purpose of government administration, including courts. Any location providing health, behavioral health, or chemical dependence care or services. Any place of worship or religious observation. Libraries, public playgrounds, public parks, and zoos. The location of any program licensed, regulated, certified, funded, or approved by the Office of Children and Family Services that provides services to children, youth, or young adults. Any legally exempt child care provider. A child care program for which a permit to operate such a program has been issued by the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene pursuant to the Health Code of the City of New York. Nursery schools, preschools, summer camps. The location of any program licensed, regulated, certified, operated, or funded by the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. The location of any program licensed, regulated, certified, operated, or funded by the Office of Addiction Services and Supports. Anything owned, operated, blah, 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 from the Office of Mental Health. Anything owned, operated, blah, 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 by the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance. Homeless shelters, runaway homeless youth shelters, family shelters, shelters for adults, domestic violence shelters, and emergency shelters. The residential programs for victims of domestic violence. So some of the people who are absolute victims and are at extreme risk, we're going to put them in gun-free zones. Residential settings, licensed, certified, regulated, blah, 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 by the Department of Health. In or upon any buildings or grounds owned or leased by any educational institutions, colleges, universities. Licensed private career schools, school districts, public schools, private schools, licensed under the Article 101 of Education Law, charter schools, non-public schools, Board of Cooperative Education Services, Special Act schools, preschool special education programs, private residential or non-residential schools for the education of students with disabilities, and any state-operated or state-supported schools, which is all of them, any place, conveyance, or vehicle used for public transportation, or public transit. Subway cars, train cars, buses, ferries, railroad, omnibus, marine, that's all boats, or aviation transportation. In New York, that's helicopters, planes, or any facility used for or in connection with service in the transportation of passengers, airports, train stations, subways, rail stations, and bus terminals. So if airplanes are gun-free zones in New York, can you no longer travel with a gun into New York? Can you no longer drive through New York where the federal law says you can? But this law is saying basically the entire state's a gun-free zone? There's more. Any establishment issued a license for on-premises consumption of alcohol. Any place used for the performance, art, entertainment, gaming, or sporting events such as theaters, stadiums, racetracks, museums, amusement parks, performance venues, concerts, exhibits, conference centers, banquet halls, and gaming facilities. Video lotto terminal facilities licensed by the Gaming Commission. Any location being used as a polling place. Any public sidewalk or other public area restricted from general public access for a limited time for special events. Any gathering of individuals to collectively express their constitutional rights to protest or assemble. And the area commonly known as Times Square. So again, GOA's filed a lawsuit. I'll have it linked down below. I did talk to one of their attorneys last night. Rob, doing a hell of a job. Steve, you too. It's amazing. It's a good read if you want. And they directly mention how Kathy Hochul, the New York appointed governor, as soon as the Supreme Court's decision came out, how she kept calling it reckless, and she did everything she could to subvert the decision, basically challenging the Supreme Court. So they have filed a lawsuit against Mr. Bruin again, who is the superintendent of state police in New York. They also mentioned in the lawsuit, like I told you in the video above, that the New York State Sheriff's Association has said that these laws are unattainable by people in order to get their licenses, that they are an infringement and they are unconstitutional. And it's actually a good read if you want to see how they are going to try to pick apart this new law in court. It's a good read. I'll have it linked down below. Guys and gals, I always say support those who support you. You can join Gun Owners of America. The link is in the description of every single video. It's gunowners.org/gunsgadgets/. And I get nothing out of it, zero. You get a discount on your membership, depending on which one you choose. You still get a discount. Some of them are bigger than others. And I always ask you to donate that difference right back to them, and more if you can. You know, a little bit here and there goes a long way, especially when these groups are filing major lawsuits, federal lawsuits that probably will go several layers deep into the court system federally. And it costs a lot of money to do that. So support those who support you. I hope you enjoyed this quick video. GOA is defending the Second Amendment in New York, and there will be more lawsuits to come. And if you want to stay in the know, subscribe to the channel down below. Help this channel continue to soar past all of the marks that YouTube never wanted us to get to. And I owe it all to you. Thank you. Till we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, and carry a gun to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe, because that's what the Second Amendment is for, whether or not New York likes it. Take care, y'all.